Hey, what's going on, guys? David and I are back with another video, and it's about that time of year again. Apple has released their latest flagship phones, the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 8 Plus. But this year, Apple decided to give us
one more thing.
And that's the iPhone 10. And I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, the iPhone 10 is casting a huge shadow over the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. But David and I have been using both phones for the past week and a half to almost 2 weeks now, and I'm here to tell you that they are incredible phones, and a lot of you out there might actually want to upgrade to the 8 and 8 Plus instead of the iPhone 10. So with that being said, let's talk about the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. So I think it's safe to say that a lot of people feel like the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus are not significant upgrades over the 7 and 7 Plus. But there are some noticeable changes between this generation of iPhone compared to last generation. And those changes are really going to be the highlights of this review. Let's start with build quality and design. The iPhone 8 and the 8 Plus are incredibly similar dimensionally to the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. But one big change this year is that Apple includes a glass back on the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. Now, this looks nicer, adds a little bit of heft to the phone, so it's slightly heavier. It also makes it marginally thicker, but the coolest benefit is that now the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus can charge wirelessly. And what's even better is Apple decided to go with the Qi wireless standard as opposed to some proprietary wireless charging mechanism that they would probably try and incorporate themselves. And it's nice to see that they just adopted a universal standard. So here's the thing about wireless charging. I know a lot of you out there who prefer Android phones over iPhone or any other phones are probably in the comment section typing something like, oh, well, here's the thing, wireless charging isn't new. Android has had it for like 3 or 4 years. Trust me, I love Android phones as much as the next person, and I fully understand that Android as an operating system has had wireless charging built into a lot of phones' hardware for 3 or 4 years now. But the fact of the matter is, Apple's iPhone is massive. And when Apple adopts a new proprietary standard, you start seeing it pop up or used by a lot of other companies much more than any other Android company can provide. So I feel like now that Apple's adopted wireless charging, you're going to start seeing wireless charging pads pop up in more cars now that support Apple's iPhones, coffee shops like Starbucks, restaurants. It's a big deal, but it's most definitely not anything new. So I hear all of you guys out there, trust me. Now on the front of the iPhone, you find the same traditional design with a home button at the bottom and an earpiece at the top. And the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus share the same screen size, 4.7 inch and 5.5 inch respectively, and the same aspect ratio of the 7 and the 7 Plus. Now where the two display technologies differ is the fact that the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus have what's called True Tone Display, and it's actually borrowed from Apple's iPad Pro. So how does True Tone Display actually work? Well, the phone has ambient sensors on the front. It measures the amount of ambient light coming into the phone, and it adjusts the tone of the display in order to match the light that's around you. It makes the colors of the display more natural, which also creates less of an eye strain for you. Now, it's not something that you're going to notice just by looking at the 8 and 8 Plus, but I promise you, after a week or so of using them, if you look at the LCD on a 7 and a 7 Plus, you'll notice a huge difference in color temperature. It's incredible. Now the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus actually bring back the dual speaker setup found on the 7 and 7 Plus. But this time around, the speakers on the 8 and 8 Plus are 25% louder when compared to last year's models. When you put the two side by side and you blast both a 7 and an 8 at full volume, you're really not going to notice too much of a difference in terms of how loud they are. But the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus's speakers definitely sound more clear. And whenever you're at max volume, they don't get distorted or tinny at all. So really good quality speakers. I can't for sure say that they're 25% louder, but they're most definitely clearer and better sounding. So here's an example of the speaker performance. The black phone is the 7 Plus, the white face is the 8 Plus, okay? All right, now let's try it with the 8 Plus. Now, we're going to try and get that sound to translate over the microphone. If it doesn't, just know that David can most definitely tell the difference. I can most definitely tell the difference. If you guys have the phones, test it for yourself. You'll most definitely hear it too, but hopefully it comes across in the video. And of course, all your other hardware favorites are back, like Touch ID, IP67 water and dust resistance, and no headphone jack, again. Favorites, right guys? Guys? Now, one thing that iPhones have been notoriously good at year after year is class-leading performance, and the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus are no different, mainly thanks to Apple's new A11 Bionic chip. Now, it's Apple's first hexa-core processor. 4 cores are low power, while 2 cores are high power. So you have the power where you need it, but you also have the power efficiency where you need it. When you take the A11 Bionic and you mix it with the fact that Apple makes their own hardware for their own software, you get unmatched performance. David ran some benchmarks on Geekbench, and single core performance on the iPhone 8 was consistently over 4,000, while multi-core performance was consistently over 10,000. To compare that to any other flagship phone on the market, no other phone is close. Even the Galaxy Note 8 that we had previously scored like a 1800 or close to 2000, I think, on single core, right, David? And the multi-core was like 5 or 6,000. So it's nowhere close in terms of any other flagship phone's performance. I mean, it's absolutely insane. In fact, if you ever run into any issues with the iPhone 8's performance, it's probably more due to the fact that iOS 11 is a new software as opposed to lack of good hardware in the phone. So let's talk about cameras real quick, because as we all know, iPhones typically come with really good cameras, and surprise, surprise, the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus have stellar cameras. We're going to talk about what the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus have in common in terms of cameras, and then we're going to talk about how the 8 Plus differentiates itself. So what's in common? The iPhone 8 and 8 Plus both have a 12 megapixel f1.8 wide-angle lens on the back. Now, that comes with HDR automatically enabled, so you can take the best quality photos. In terms of the front camera, it's a 7 megapixel f2.2 aperture lens, and it can shoot video in up to 1080p, so you can take some epic selfies. Now, back to our rear cameras. Both the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus can shoot video in 4K up to 60 frames per second and slow-mo up to 240 frames per second in 1080p. So both cameras have really solid performance. And of course, as I previously mentioned, the iPhone 8 Plus comes with a second lens on the back. Now, this is a 12 megapixel telephoto lens at f2.8 aperture that allows you to take portrait mode photos like what we saw last year with the 7 Plus. What's new this year with the 8 Plus is portrait lighting photos. So portrait lighting is actually in beta, but what it allows you to do is add lighting effects to your subject using image processing in the iPhone software. Now, there are 5 different effects that you can add: natural light, contour light, studio light, stage light, and stage light mono. All 5 of them are right there. They're pretty cool. Not perfect. Like I said, they are in beta, and if you look closely, you can kind of see some of the images, getting cropped out depending on which effect you add, but still cool nonetheless. And for those of you out there who care about camera benchmarks, there is a popular one called DxOMark. The iPhone 8 scored a 92, and the iPhone 8 Plus scored a 94. And with that being said, enjoy these photos. Okay, so we're going to talk about probably one of the most important factors of any smartphone. I know for me, it is one of the most important factors, if not the most important, and that's battery life. So here's the thing. When the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus came out, they were also released right alongside iOS 11. Now, I'm sure you guys are familiar with new software that comes out for phones, but anytime that happens, there's always a chance that that new software could be buggy, or it won't mix well with other applications that you have on your phone, and that can result in some significant battery drain. And I've heard about quite a few people having awful battery drain with iOS 11. But the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus are incredibly solid whenever it comes to battery life. David had the 8 Plus, I had the 8. On the 8, I was getting around 4.5 to 5 hours of screen on time consistently. On the 8 Plus, David was seeing well over 6 hours of screen on time, so definitely enough to get you through a day. What makes me really happy about the 8 and 8 Plus is they support 2 new charging methods that weren't necessarily supported all too well on previous iPhone models. That is fast wire charging via USB Type-C and obviously wireless charging. Now, there's benefits to both. Wireless charging is super convenient. You just set the phone down on a wireless charging pad, maybe on your bed, or I know some new cars actually have Qi wireless pads built in. But the caveat to wireless charging is that it's super slow. It's about as slow as the standard 5-watt brick that comes in the box of an iPhone. Now, the cool part is the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, like I said, support fast wired charging via USB Type-C. The only drawback of that is it's not included in the box, and it's going to cost you a good amount of money to actually get into fast wired charging. Now, I invested in Apple's 29-watt USB Type-C charging brick, and of course, a USB Type-C to Lightning cable. So I charge my iPhone 8 relatively fast. I've plugged it in at like, I want to say 29% battery, and within 20 to 25 minutes, I was looking at about 60+% battery on my iPhone 8. So the charging speed is ridiculously quick. Like I said, only downside, it's not in the box. And the power adapter itself is about $49, and the cable itself is about 20 something bucks depending on the length you get. So you're looking at spending at least $70 to get yourself into fast wire charging territory. Now, the cool part is we actually just got a product in from Aki. This is a 56.5 watt turbocharger. And the cool part is, compared to the Apple standard, it actually has a USB-C port and a USB-A port. Now, David, how much was this? $39?
Yep.
39 bucks for this brick right here. We will leave a link in the description down below so you can buy one for yourself. Huge shout out to Aki for sending this to us. If you wanted a similar power adapter offered by Apple, you would be spending, I believe, $69 or $70 for, it's like a 64 watt power adapter. Those are the ones that power the new MacBook Pros. This one's 56.5 watts, like I already said before, for $39. So if you guys are looking for a cheap alternative to a brick to get you into fast wire charging for your new iPhones, look no further than Aki. Like I said, guys, link in the description down below. So another thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, earlier in the video I mentioned that the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus have glass backs. And Apple went so far as to say that the glass on the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus are some of the strongest glass ever put into a phone ever, even saying that the glass is steel reinforced on the inside. But here's the thing, guys. Glass is fragile by nature. Regardless of how strong it's made, if you drop it, it's probably going to crack. So what I'm getting at is you need protection for these phones considering you're spending a good amount of money on them. And we got contacted by Elixir again, and they sent us some wonderful cases that we're going to show you guys just like we did for our Note video. It's just our way of giving you guys an option for protection. There are a lot of companies out there that offer cases and screen protectors and things like that, but Elixir actually makes really high quality premium cases and tempered glass screen protectors for the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. We will leave a link to their website down below in the description as well. We just want to make sure that you guys kind of have all your bases covered, so if you do get an iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, you have options to get the whole experience. Fast wire charging, protection, the whole 9 yards. You guys have options, and we're glad that we get contacted by companies and send us stuff so we can show you guys those options as well. So like I said, guys, in the description down below, check it out. Okay, so we've basically found that the iPhone 8 and iPhone 8 Plus are incredible phones. What we need to talk about is it worth your upgrade? So I think the answer to that question kind of lies in what iPhone do you currently have. If you have a 7 and a 7 Plus, you're not missing out on too much in terms of what the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus can offer. But as we covered in the video, there are some noticeable changes. I know David currently has the 7 Plus and the 8 Plus, and he thoroughly enjoys using the 8 Plus more than he does his 7 Plus. And if he ever decides to go back, I'm sure he would miss the 8 Plus, right, David?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So there's that. As far as price point goes, I don't want to say too expensive, and I don't want to say that they're reasonably priced either. The iPhone 8 starts at $699 for 64 gigs of storage, and the 8 Plus starts at $799 for 64 gigs of storage. So not bad, not the most expensive thing we've seen this year, but also not the cheapest. Now, there's one other thing I wanted to talk about, and that's one of the biggest features in the iPhone 8 that's not present in the upcoming iPhone 10 that a lot of people are waiting on, and that's Touch ID. I feel like for a lot of people, the importance of Touch ID is going to be a big factor of whether or not you want to upgrade to the 8 or the 10. So the 10 has the new design, the OLED screen, dual optically image stabilized cameras on the back, the whole 9 yards, but it doesn't have Touch ID. I know a lot of people out there are really high strung on Touch ID. They love using it, myself included. So I'm not really sure how I'm going to react when the 10 comes out and I use that. But if you love Touch ID and you're looking to upgrade your phone, the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus are solid. If you're if you don't care about Touch ID and you really have the budget for the iPhone 10, which starts at $1,000 and goes up from there, go for the iPhone 10. It's fully featured. But the point of this is the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus are decently priced. They can do 90% of what the iPhone 10 can do whenever that comes out. And at the same time, they have Touch ID, which Apple has built a solid foundation on with apps and features. So at the end of the day, I say go for it. That's just my own personal opinion, though. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. Dude, that review is tough. It's like the 8's in like this interesting predicament where it's like get it but don't get it because the 10, but it can do almost all the stuff the 10 can, but it can't do like the Face ID and the design and like all this other. It's
why not both?
yeah, ideally if you had the budget, right? But it's just like I tried to keep the 10 out of that review the whole entire time, but it's like it was like a looming shadow. Like I would be like, yeah, the screen is really nice with True Tone, but the 10 is gonna have like the full-fledged like no bezel design and like all this other. I don't know. It was rough. Whatever. Hopefully it turns out good.